Okay, so I'm just going to check. So are we live streaming right now? Okay. All right, so I might actually get started now. So I have pleasure in opening the council meeting of the 16th of June 2026 at 6 p.m. and welcome everyone who is in attendance. I'd like to begin by acknowledging we're meeting on the lands of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation and to pay our respects to elders past and present. We also want to acknowledge that the City of Vincent most certainly has a role in working towards reconciliation and justice of First Nations people. Okay, I have given permission for Councillor Whedon to join us electronically. So hello, Councillor Whedon, I can see you, you're bigger on the screen. And we're still waiting to be joined by Councillor Wallace. I note that Councillor LaFontaine is on an approved leave of absence at the moment. So I'm going to go straight to public question time. Can I just get an indication from anyone present whether anyone wishes to address the council meeting? Okay, so if you haven't addressed a council meeting before, you just need to come forward, say your name, what suburb you reside in. If you wish to speak to one of the items that's on the agenda tonight, just tell us which item it is, because we'll bring that forward on the agenda. And a summary of your remarks will be included in the minutes. We are live streaming. If you don't want to be live streamed, just tell us and we can stop the recording. Okay. So if anyone wishes to come forward and address the meeting, please do so now.
Leslie Fleury, 79 Sass Ave, Mount Hawthorn. Good evening, Mayor, councillors. I have a petition containing 80 signatories objecting to the proposed 40.9% increase in residential vacant land rates proposed by the City of Vincent. This increase is extraordinary, excessive, unreasonable, fundamentally unfair to affected ratepayers. The rise of this magnitude cannot reasonably be characterised as a standard fee adjustment. Rather, it represents a punitive financial measure imposed upon a specific class of residents and property owners. The justification advanced by the City, namely that the increase is intended to encourage owners to develop vacant land, is deeply concerning. By way of context, I understand that only 7 vacant residential properties progressed to development approval, representing 1.9% of properties. This suggests the City is seeking to apply financial pressure to compel owners to develop or sell. Rates are intended to cover reasonable costs of local government services and administration, not to operate as a coercive mechanism to force landowners into private financial decisions regarding development. Many affected landowners have legitimate reasons for retaining land, including financial constraints, future planning considerations, market conditions, building costs, legal fees, health issues, personal circumstances, and in my case, due to a significant restriction of the City of Vincent stormwater pipe running through my property. It is inappropriate and inequitable for the City to impose what amounts to a financial penalty upon residents simply because the council disapproves of how privately owned land is currently being utilised. The proposed increase is grossly disproportionate when compared with the proposed 5.4 increase for general residence properties. A differential of this scale raises serious concerns regarding fairness, reasonableness, proportionality, and the proper exercise of the council's rating powers. The City has a statutory and fiduciary obligation to act in the interests of all ratepayers fairly, transparently, and reasonably. Local governments are entrusted with public powers and must exercise that power reasonably for lawful purposes and in accordance with the principles of procedural fairness and proper decision making. Targeting property owners with residential land with astronomical increases of 40.9% appears punitive and rather than equitable. Councils must all consider the broader economic realities affecting current residents, including rising living costs, insurance, interest rates, construction and general financial pressures. Imposing such a severe increase demonstrates a significant lack of fairness and community consideration. In the city's objective,
conclude your remarks. Thank you.
So I am requesting that the increase be objected to by the council, reject the proposed increases in its current form, undertake genuine consultation with affected landowners like myself, be transparent in your financial justification, and
so you will need to conclude your remarks now.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll give you a copy.
Yes, you are welcome to give a copy, and we can include that in the record.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to address the meeting?
I'm Robert Bowe, Brisbane Street, Perth, owner-occupier, speaking to 11.1, the same agenda item actually. My position is about 180 degrees around, but I received something in the mail about the differential rating and it invited me to comment, so here I am. I'm concerned about the very issue of the rating on vacant land, but my position is that the goals that the city is setting won't be achieved by the amount of difference that they're proposing, in the sense that whereas the actual rate is about just under twice the amount of the rate for residential property, the actual minimum is only about 6.5% higher, so that there's, on the surface, it looks like there's some sort of incentive to get vacant land actually being useful to the community as opposed to just sitting there. My concern about this is I've been living where we are since mid-90s, and there's been a number of parcels of vacant land that have been vacant all the time I've lived there. And large parcels, multi-block large parcels. And my suggestion is that the rhetoric in the statement, higher rate of dollars applied to encourage timely development of vacant land, improving the city's streetscape, smacks of tokenism, in the sense of it's not enough to make the sort of difference that you're suggesting you're trying to achieve, which is to actually get the land to be useful and contributing to the community. My suggestion is that you would need to have something in the vicinity of about a 500% difference if you were to disrupt the economics of the current status quo, which I characterise as sit and hold as wealth storage for the next family generation. So if you don't disrupt the economics, then the goal becomes pretty moot. I'm suggesting a step change, and if the current proposal goes ahead, it's really just going to lock in the status quo. It's not going to change anything, which seems to be one of the goals of the stated in the new proposal. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the meeting? Thank you very much.
Evening, Mayors and Councillors. Donnell Phillips is my name, and the reason I'm here tonight is because I sent an email on the 1st of May and I have not received any response to it whatsoever. So I decided to come and front you all. And it's very brief. I regularly attend Hyde Park, my dog, my coffee, and a lot of other people too, okay? With winter coming on, I would like to know if it's possible for either the council or the cafe owners to install a retractable awning from their coffee shop. It gives cover for their clients, people that come for their coffee, and lots of people attend that little cafe. And there's just no cover for the winter and the weather. And my request is that would you consider that situation, just one of those retractable awnings that go out and they can put it away at night. And so it's very brief and it's probably very not very important, but I would really like some response to my request. And is it possible that I could have the response in an email in writing? Okay.
Okay, I'll just make the confirm. I've never received that email. It possibly it's gone to mail at Vincent.
Pardon?
In which case it wouldn't have, but maybe. But that could be. Yeah, I'm looking around. Everyone's indicating that none of us have received that email. So possibly it's gone to mail at Vincent, which doesn't go to the elected representatives. But you've asked for a follow up, and that's reasonable. So I'm sure that that can be considered. But I just wanted to advise.
Would you have my email address available, or
maybe
or can
we
I
can
leave
have
this with you?
You leaving that? Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Nicholas O'Reilly, reside in Como. Look, it's just going to be brief. It's in relation to, I spoke last week, Agenda 5.2, in relation to the short-term rental that we were looking at, obviously proposing, and just wanted to see if there was actually an outcome for that.
Sorry. So we're actually going to be discussing it tonight. It was a briefing session last week, and tonight's the decision.
Okay, so it's going to it won't be till next week, will it? Oh, decide tonight. Okay. All right. Thank you.
But I've noted that, so that's been brought forward. Okay. Okay. So there's no one else here to speak. So there being no further questions, I'm going to close public question time at 12 minutes past 6. Governance Manager, can you please confirm the written statements that have been received?
Confirming we've received written statements from Mark Catania of North Perth, John Stevenson of North Perth and Dudley Murray of Highgate. Those questions will be included in the agenda with a response in the next minutes of the meeting.
Okay, can I get an indication whether there are any applications for leave of absence? Okay, so there have been no requests for deputations. We have received a petition containing 80 signatures from Leslie Flory of Mount Hawthorn, requesting that Council withdraw, reject or substantially reduce the proposed 40.9% increase in vacant residential property rates for the 2026-2027 financial year. So Clause 2.24 petitions of the City of Vincent Meeting Procedures Local Law 2008 provides the following. The presentation of a petition shall be confined to the reading of the petition, and the only motions in order are that the petition be received, or the petition be received and a report be prepared, or that the petition be received and be referred to a committee for consideration and report, or that the petition be received and be dealt with by the Council. I'm recommending that the petition be received. Is there a mover for that? Moved Councillor Castle, seconded Councillor Wolf. All those in favour? Okay, and I've noticed, sorry, just Councillor Whedon up there, so that's carried unanimously. Okay, so I move to confirmation of minutes, and the proposal is that the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 19th of May 2026 be confirmed. Do I have a mover for that? Moved Councillor Poulios, seconded Councillor Greer. All those in favour? Okay, carried unanimously. Thank you very much. I just have some brief announcements about the upcoming Highgate and North Perth traffic studies that have been quite some time in the making. There's a lot of work that's gone into that. So after the past 12 months, as we know, the city has been doing a significant amount of work to better understand the traffic and road safety issues that we are hearing from our community and have been hearing for quite a long time, particularly around North Perth and Highgate at the moment. So these studies are a really important shift for the council in how we are looking at road safety and transport issues across the city. What the work has brought together is the data that we already have, particularly around crash history and traffic information, but also new modelling and technical analysis and a broader look at how our local road network actually functions. Now, we know that traditionally we have looked at traffic calming measures on a street-by-street basis. Someone basically brings up a concern about traffic or safety, and we look at that one location in isolation. But what we know and what this work has clearly shown is that this is not very helpful when you're trying to determine big picture transport issues. So because we saw this particularly when we had the debates around the measures for Harold Street, that a change on one street can will simply shift traffic somewhere else unless you have looked at it holistically and come up with holistic ways to address this. It does affect nearby residents and businesses and pedestrians, as well as people who are on scooters and bikes and public transport users in ways that we might not immediately see. So we've changed the way that we are looking at this approach by taking a precinct-wide approach and looking at how an entire neighbourhood moves in a particular area. So the studies are ultimately about making sure that we're reducing the likelihood and also the severity of any crashes across entire neighbourhoods, not just responding to the individual requests as they arise. So we finally do have an evidence-based approach to how we need to prioritise where we're going to put our road traffic, our road calming measures. So that the next step is that we need to take this data and talk about and get the feedback from the community. So we are also capturing that lived experience about the way that traffic works within our local communities. Understandably, people are always going to focus on their own street or their own immediate areas of that they travel around, but we will be looking at it from a holistic perspective. So what these studies are now doing is they are allowing us to have an informed conversation about why a treatment's being proposed and where it's going to fit in the broader network and what the benefit is going to be for the whole community, because we can't just look at these individual measures in isolation. So it's not about restricting movement across the city, it's about balancing movement with safety. So we are going to be putting this out for public feedback and hearing from the community in the coming weeks, and that will give people the opportunity to share their local knowledge and to highlight their responses to what is being proposed. And once we've got that local knowledge, it'll be considered alongside the objective data, the technical evidence, before anything moves forward. So this is about the council taking the lead in terms of providing a more strategic, transparent and evidence-based way of planning our road network, and ultimately we're hoping that this is going to ensure we have safer streets and safer intersections, and that our neighbourhoods are going to be ensuring that we are safe for people to be able to walk and to easily get around. So that has been an enormous amount of work, and it's important that we flag for our residents that this is something they're going to be able to be having input into very soon. CEO, could you please read out the declarations of interest?
Through you, Mayor Zaman, the declarations for tonight's meeting are as per the briefing session last Tuesday. Mayor Zaman declared a proximity interest in relation to item 5.2.
9.2.
9.2, number 5288 Lord Street, noting that the above location is in proximity to the Mayor's residential property The Mayor is not seeking approval to participate in the debate, nor to remain in the chambers, nor to vote on the matter. And Councillor Warner declared an impartiality interest in relation to the Disability Access and Inclusion Advisory Group, noting that Councillor Warner is friends with an applicant nominating to be a community representative on the group. And that's all.
So, are there any other conflicts of interest that anyone wishes to declare? Okay. So, the items which are already, what have I done with my pen? The items which are already the subject of that have been mentioned are 11.1 and 9.2. Okay, so items which require an absolute majority decision, 11.1, 12.1, 12.2, 12.3 and 12.4. We already have the proximity interest at 9.2. Councillor Warner, in addition to any of those, are there any that you wish to note?
9.4, thank you.
9.4. Councillor Wallace?
No, thank you, Mayor.
No worries. Councillor Greer?
11.5 and 13.1.
11.5 and 13.1. Councillor Castle?
13.2.
13.2. Councillor Whedon?
Nothing extra from me, Mayor.
Okay. Councillor Wolf?
10.1, please.
10.1. Councillor Poulios?
No extra ones from me, thanks.
Okay, and mine have already been mentioned as well, so I'll just read out. I'll just consult with governance. We'll determine which ones can be read on, can be voted on block.
Sorry, one thing I forgot.
Yes, Councillor Poulios.
12.3 on there.
What's that?
12.3, you got that?
Yes, it is.
All right, sorry,
It
yeah.
is. No, it's not a problem. Thank you for mentioning it. Okay, Governance Manager, would you like to read out those items that are proposed to be passed on block?
Confirming the following items will be moved on block: 9.1, 9.3, 10.2, 10.3, 11.2, 11.3, 11.4, 11.6 and 12.5.
Do I have a mover for that? Moved Councillor Castle, seconded Councillor Wolf. All those in favour? Okay, that's carried unanimously. Thank you. So now we move to the first item, which also requires an absolute majority, and that's 11.1, adoption of the annual budget 2026-27. Do I have a mover? Moved Councillor Wolf. Do I have a seconder? Seconded Councillor Castle. Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you to administration for the significant work that's gone into preparing this budget and for all the discussions that we've had as a council over our budget workshop process. Thank you also to the community members who provided submissions and emails and came tonight. We've certainly received a diverse set of viewpoints for us to consider in this process. In terms of context, this budget's been developed in a very challenging environment. We've seen a cost of living crisis, and councils across WA have experienced rapid increases in costs, particularly due to skyrocketing construction costs and supply chain pressures. Wage growth is at its highest level in over a decade and continues to rise. And across Australia, costs are rising faster than revenues, placing councils under growing financial strain to maintain their services. And without keeping pace with these costs, councils face really difficult trade-offs, so things like delaying projects or cutting services. And we only need to look at other examples to see those risks in practice. We've seen playgrounds closed for estimates of 2 to 3 years in a certain Western Suburb Council in Perth, and we've seen suspension of bin collections in a regional New South Wales council. And that's certainly not the position that we want to be in. What we're seeing in WA is a clear shift beyond the sort of 3.5-4.5% rate increase range, with a number of councils such as Joondalup, Wanneroo and Canning moving to that 5 to 6% range and above. There's a clear upward pressure across the sector, with Vincent sitting in the middle of the pack, responding in line with broader sector pressures. Vincent remains one of the lowest rating councils, while delivering really strong value for money and being recognised as the second most livable council in Australia and the most livable in WA. But to me, this budget strikes the right balance for maintaining essential services, investing in infrastructure and ensuring our long-term financial sustainability. And as always, hardship measures are in place in this budget to support those doing it now. I'm pleased in this budget to see the introduction of differential rates for short-term residential accommodation and strengthening our position on higher increases for long-term vacant land, which is something we've discussed tonight. Encouraging productive use of land to me is a responsibility across all tiers of government, and we can see that in practice. The Commonwealth applies taxes to certain vacant properties, states have a range of different measures in place, and in Victoria, the higher taxes apply for all vacant properties. At the local level, we don't have many tools available to us to encourage productive use, but differential rates are one of those tools. And additionally, as we've talked about before in the chamber, we know that vacant properties have real cost impacts and community impacts through graffiti, vandalism, dumping of waste and antisocial behaviour. So to me, it's only fair that the owners of long-term vacant properties contribute more towards those costs rather than having ratepayers pick up the tab. And as we've discussed tonight, there are certainly other suggestions and other ideas that we could use, which would be open to hearing about from the community to encourage productive use of land as well. So overall, to me, this is a responsible and a balanced budget. It maintains essential services. It ensures maintenance of our existing infrastructure through the $25 million Capital Works program, and it positions the city really well for the future.
Councillor Castle.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Wolf, for setting that out so well. I don't have a whole lot more to add. I would absolutely agree that I'm in support of this budget, and I think that it is both a sensible and responsible way to move forward. We're responding not only to cost pressures that the council is experiencing, just like every other business and every other household, but also to what our community is telling us. And our community tells us that they are sick of seeing vacant properties sitting vacant for years on end. We know that we have a housing crisis in this state and across the country, and as Councillor Wolf has pointed out, we do have an obligation to pull the levers that we do have to try and address that issue. Property owners who have a vacant property have clear options: develop or sell. Both of those are available to most property owners with a vacant piece of land, and council's not getting in the way of that. So I'm quite happy to support that part of the budget. The other thing that our community has been telling us quite consistently is that they value their community and their neighbourhoods, and they are concerned about the erosion of those neighbourhoods through the increase in number of short-term rental accommodations. This is something the council has been discussing at length, and we have a fairly new policy that is being applied in a number of different ways, so to try and address some of those concerns from the community. The increase in rates for short-term rental accommodation is another lever that we can pull to try and address that issue. So I'm very happy and comfortable supporting that. I think often there's always a lot of focus on that magic number of 5.4%, and people will have opinions about where that should sit in relation to other increases in costs and in the community. As the Executive Director will know, every year I ask for a couple of numbers to put that in perspective, and thank you, they've been provided again. I always go to this portion of the report. That 5.4% rate increase on a median residential property equates to a $1.85 per week extra. On a 4x1 house in Mount Lawley, it's $2.17 per week, and on a 5x2 house in North Perth, it's $2.66 per week extra. So while people like to focus on 5.4% and where that sits within other rate rises around the state, I think when we look at it in those numbers, it's a very small ask from our community for what will make a big difference for the council and for the services that we provide. So very happy to support.
Councillor Greer.
Thank you, Mayor Simon. And I also want to thank the team and acknowledge the really collaborative process to date. This is a huge piece of work, and I'm very grateful for the time and energy that's been put into it. Similar to other councillors, I do want to acknowledge the existence of the short-term accommodation differential rate in this budget. I'm really pleased to see this contained within our budget. I think it's a measured response that recognises that our unhosted short-term accommodation within Vincent is a commercial use within our residential areas. As I understand, we're not the only council to be doing this. It would be responsible of Vincent to do the same. And I think it is one of the only tools available to us to encourage our community that homes should remain for residential use and not be holiday homes. Also want to speak briefly to the increase in the rate for long-term vacant residential land. I won't go into that much more. My colleagues here have described it so beautifully, I think, in terms of the reasons why, and do want to say that I support that. I think overall, given the challenges outlined by Councillor Wolf that are going on in the world and impacting our ability to deliver services, we've got a budget with a moderate rate increase. And I think it will continue to deliver the services that our community expect. So once again, just want to thank the staff for bringing this work together. Thank you very much.
Does anyone else? Councillor Poulios.
Thank you, Mayor. Just as a newly elected councillor, it's been eye-opening to see the level of detail and consideration that goes into preparing the annual budget. So big thanks to the finance team for all their work. Coming from outside as just a resident, you don't have any idea of what goes into it. So maybe it'd be good to sort of explain to the wider public on how we formulate the budget a bit more, and it might make a bit more sense to the wider community. One of the most common questions I get from the community is, why does the council just match CPI increases? After 7 months in the role, it's clear that comparison isn't straightforward. CPI reflects a basket of household goods, whereas our cost base is heavily weighted towards maintaining community infrastructure, parks, roads, facilities, which have seen higher cost pressures in recent years. We also have a diverse community with different expectations. Some want more investment in services, others prefer lower rates and less, and we've got to try and find a middle ground across, everyone, I guess. On top of that, we've got local governments. Our local governments are expected to deliver on responsibilities driven by state and federal policy, which are not always fully funded, which creates more imposts. I think it's important we continue to focus on efficiencies and financial discipline in both our operations and the decisions that we as council make going forward. And in context, I see the 5.4% increase as a middle ground, like other councillors have said, still lower than many other metropolitan councils. In relation to the vacant land differential, I understand the intent. It's a lever to encourage development and discourage land banking during the housing shortage. I don't think just alone that will be enough, as some members of the community have said tonight, to drive the behavioural change. It's a start, but I think we probably have to look a bit more deeply into how we can sort of incentivise more people to sort of activate their land. And while I do recognise that some landowners may be asset rich but cash poor, I think we need. Sorry, I just talked about that. I think the concessions that are in place for those that are already building or about to commence are sensible. So overall, in totality, I'm comfortable supporting the budget as it is.
Does anyone else wish to speak on the budget? I want to make a few comments. I note that we started doing this budget back in January. and I note with a little bit of despair just how much the world changed between January and where we are tonight, and the massive impact that has had on the budget that we are now presenting, and all other councils are now presenting to their residents. I want to thank the finance team for their nimbleness in needing to respond to some pretty rapid changes and projected costs that we are now facing as a community and as a council. I also want to comment on the point made by Councillor Poulios as to when residents sometimes say, why don't we just stick to CPI? My response to that is when construction costs annually only go up by CPI, that's probably the point where we can absolutely look at that, as opposed to, in some instances, 60% increases over a 12-month period, which is just formidable in terms of having to address. I do want to reflect on my disappointment about how much of this budget is picking up costs which I don't believe rightly should sit with ratepayers. I refer once again to the biosecurity issue of Polyphagus shot hole borer and the hundreds of thousands of dollars that we as a council are now having to invest on an annual basis just to look at maintaining our current trees, including in parks like Hyde Park, which is a state park of significance. I still think that the amount that our ratepayers are expected to pick up just to keep our trees is unreasonable and a financial impost that's just not going to be sustainable. It's difficult for this year, but it's certainly not sustainable moving forward either. And it's a bit of a trend of cost shifting, which is steadily becoming imposed into local government. Certainly, I think we need to look at some of the measures which exist, I think, particularly in other countries. I note the UK has recently passed laws whereby if there is additional costs that are required to be incurred by local governments as a result of state laws or national laws, that they must be compensated accordingly. And perhaps it's time for us to have similar conversations as local councils to ensure that our ratepayers are not effectively paying twice, once through their rates and also through their taxes. I also note that we are responding to a number of concerns that continually get raised with us as councillors from frustrated residents about wanting to ensure that our communities are being protected and that our communities are also being developed appropriately. And so that is a very big pressure that councils are increasingly being asked to respond to. But I also look with some joy about the sort of investment that we're putting into our community clubs and our community organisations. I think we are demonstrating there's a lot of vitality in the city of Vincent, WA's most livable city, but it still remains an ongoing challenge to ensure that we are meeting the expectations of our residents in terms of delivery of services, as well as necessary upgrades of things such as footpaths and bike lanes and road treatments and the like. So it has been a challenging budget to present, but hopefully it's in line with community expectations, and hopefully next year we will be presented with some figures that aren't quite so difficult as this year has been. Does anyone else wish to say anything? Councillor Wolf, do you want to say anything in conclusion? Okay, now I'm going to put this. All those in favour? Okay, that's carried unanimously. Thank you. So we move on to 9.2, and I'm going to ask the Deputy Mayor to take the chair, please. So number 2, which is number 5288 Lord Street, Perth, proposed change of use from multiple dwelling to unhosted short-term rental accommodation.
Thank you, Mayor. Do we have a mover for this item? Moved Councillor Wolfe. Do we have a seconder? Moved Councillor Greer. Councillor Wolfe.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I support the officer recommendation to refuse this application. A key issue is the location of this dwelling, both within the development and within the broader locality, where it does interface with surrounding residential uses. As we've discussed many times in the chamber, unhosted STRA introduce guest turnover, arrivals and departures, and visitor activity that impact the surrounding permanent residents. And this creates a real tension between the short stay use and the expectations of those residents. And the impacts, particularly noise, activity, and movement through the shared spaces, those are not consistent with the expectations of the people living there long term. And in terms of this particular proposal, I don't think that those impacts resulting from the intensification of use can be adequately managed in this setting, so I don't consider the proposal appropriate for this site. And that's consistent with the policy position that this council has made clear.
Thank you, Councillor Greer.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Castle. I will also be supporting the officer recommendation for refusal. As a council, we consulted recently on our short-term accommodation policy, and for me that sets the expectations around what our community, where it thinks that these properties should go and where is a residential area. And for me, this application does not meet enough of the requirements that we've set out in that policy. One of the objectives of our local planning policy is to ensure that residential zones continue to fulfil its primary purpose of providing long-term housing opportunities. For me, of particular concern is its proximity to other residential properties, especially with the outdoor spaces impacting neighbouring properties within the building and on Windsor Street. And particularly it is a concern around noise. Also, the application does not meet the requirement to book the property for a minimum of 3 nights per booking over the weekend, and there is insufficient guest parking. So yeah, I'll be supporting the officer recommendation.
Would anyone else like to speak? No? No? I will briefly comment. I also support the officer recommendation to refuse. I think that, as has been pointed out, if we're following our new policy, it quite clearly has criteria that would support refusal of this application. The location is an interesting point, given that it is on Lord Street. However, because this property particularly is oriented towards the residential zone and not towards Lord Street, I don't think that it is a suitable location for the property. I think that, as others have said, the noise and amenity impact cannot be mitigated through management conditions alone, and that makes this location fundamentally unsuitable. I will put the motion. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously.
Okay, so now I go to item 9.4, the Globe Public Artwork Commission. Councillor Warner, would you seeking to move? Okay, do I have a second? Seconded by Councillor Wolfe. Councillor Warner.
Thank you. I just wanted to say hooray. We're finally getting there, hopefully. I'm really supportive of this proposed location in North Claysbrook. This is a place where lots of people will see and enjoy this artwork, making it hopefully a feature of the area, especially this area, which I'm hoping will really be evolving a lot in the next few years. This artwork hopefully will help create the character and bring interest to the space and giving the residents and visitors something rather unique. Thank you to Marcus Canning, our artist. This has the potential to become a local landmark and a great talking point, and hopefully will make the area more welcoming and vibrant. I look forward to seeing this exciting project finally come to fruition with its proposed delivery in mid-2027. Thank you.
Councillor Wolfe.
Thank you, Mayor. I concur with Councillor Warner's hooray. I think that Edward Street is absolutely an appropriate location for this artwork. Although there's some complexity around the installation, I think it's going to be a fantastic entry statement, visible from the Graham Farmer Freeway, and it's going to look even better, as we saw in the report, as this area densifies. So I'm very supportive and, like many others, very keen to get this project moving along.
Councillor Castle.
Thank you, Mayor. I will echo those comments. I'm very excited that we're at this point. It's been a journey, shall we say, to get to a location that is suitable for this artwork. It's been through a few different iterations. I think that where we have landed will bring life and interest to an area that desperately needs it and has a great future ahead of it. I think it will do what all good public art should do. It will spark debate. It will no doubt have many different opinions on whether it's beautiful or horrible, but that's what good public art does. It will be iconic, and as Councillor Wolfe has said, be an entry statement for Vincent. So I'll be very excited to see this in place.
Does anyone else wish to speak? I wish to speak. I'm very excited about this coming together. It's going to be a wonderful way to signal the ending of the concrete batching plants as they finally move on at the end of next year. And I think it sends a powerful message that we are serious about North Claysbrook as a site for development, as a site where we can put in that, you know, so many residential dwellings that it will really go some way in terms of helping to meet our density targets. And I think we're going to find that the residents around there welcome this artwork wholeheartedly. I thank the residents and the landowners down in the North Claysbrook precinct who have already indicated so much support for this artwork going ahead, and I echo the thanks of Councillor Warner to the artist Marcus Canning for the goodwill that he has brought to reimagining how this artwork might actually work within this particular precinct. I think that it's a win-win all round. I'm very much looking forward to it going in, and as Councillor Castle has indicated, I suspect there'll be a fair bit of feedback to that, and I look forward to it. Does anyone else wish to speak on this? Councillor Warner, do you want to say anything in conclusion?
I just wanted to say once again thank you, and I look forward to the feedback, because good art, as Councillor Castle says, should be controversial, it's subjective, and I look forward to it. Bring it on. Thank you.
Okay, I'll put the proposal. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to 10.1, Loftus Recreation Centre, review of operational and financial performance. Do I have a mover for this? Moved Councillor Wolfe, seconded by Councillor Castle. Councillor Wolfe.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to administration for this report. The report was brought forward following an amendment that Councillor Castle and I brought back in December-ish, which really reflected Council's strong interest in Belgrave's performance. It's really positive to see some movement in the financial performance and that ongoing engagement that we have. However, that improvement really does remain modest, and to me, Belgrave's financial position for Loftus Rec continues to be of concern, particularly in the context of the level of support provided by the city, which now exceeds $200,000. And to me, this is a concern in the context of Belgravia being a large and established operator. It's a multinational corporation with extensive experience, and if you look at their website, they really publicly emphasise their financial management capability. So going forward, appreciate the continued communications and would be particularly interested in ensuring that we are well prepared to consider future options for Loftus Rec ahead of the lease expiry at the end of next year.
Councillor Castle.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, thank you for this report. I think it's been a really helpful touch point in where we're at and how the centre is being managed and how things might be improving. As we noted last week, that we have had some concerning incidents at the site. and that's obviously not something that council ever wants to hear, particularly at a community facility like this. So I do appreciate the efforts of our administration in engaging promptly on those issues and working with Belgravia management. Thank you also for the information that was provided in the briefing notes. It's really helpful context, I think, for us to understand what the future of this facility should be and how it should be managed. I think there's often a lot of focus on the gym portion of the facility, and that clearly has some challenges with a competitive market, not least from BD Park, which goes from strength to strength. But what is also important to note in this quite large facility is that there is a considerable amount of community events and services and facility that is being provided for our local community. There is basketball, indoor basketball, gymnastics, and a number of different sporting options and venue hire options that are available. So that's core business for council, and I think it is really important that we are keeping a close eye on how it's being run and being prepared for the best options going forward. So thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak to this item? Councillor Wolfe, do you want to say anything in conclusion? Can I put the item? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, so now we move on to 11.5, Disability Access and Inclusion Advisory Group, appointment of council members and community representatives. Do I have a mover? Moved, Councillor Greer. Do I have a seconder? Seconded, Councillor Poulios. Councillor Greer.
Thank you, Mayor Simon. I am really pleased to see the city establishing a Disability Access and Inclusion Advisory Group. I think in some ways this is long overdue, but I'm really glad that we're here now. I'm really pleased to see the range of lived experience in their applications. This group of people will really support the creation of a disability access and inclusion plan for the city, and I think I'm looking forward to them sharing their experiences of navigating our city, using our services and facilities. And I do hope that with the creation of this group, we will see great improvements for the disabled people that live, work and play in our city. And I'm very much looking forward to the city receiving their robust feedback with open ears and seeing how we can improve across the board. Thank you.
Councillor Poulios. Sorry, yes, Councillor Poulios.
Yeah. I'm looking forward, like Councillor Greer said, to seeing this group get activated and hearing their ideas. So yeah, let's get them going, and yeah, nothing further to add.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Okay, I wish to say I'm really pleased to see this coming through as a new advisory group. As the mother of a child with significant physical disability, I think it's really important that we are hearing from people with lived experience who can better advise us as to how we can ensure that the City of Vincent is the most physically accessible, the most inclusive community we possibly can be. I think that there's been a lot of good work that has happened here at the City of Vincent, but there's always areas where we need to improve, whether it be in our practices or whether it be identifying physical hotspots that are difficult for people to be able to navigate around. As I always say, a city that is physically accessible for people with disability is also one that's accessible for people who are older or middle-aged women who are coming home after having spent a jolly evening in Beaufort Street. So for whatever reason, it is a good idea to ensure that we are as accessible and as safe as we possibly can be. Does anyone else wish to speak on this item? Okay, I'm going to actually call for nominations from the council. We've got 4 positions, as I understand it. There's 4 vacancies though. There's 4 vacancies though. We've received 3 nominations already. We've received a nomination from Councillor Warner. We've received a nomination from Councillor Greer. We've received a nomination from myself. Is any other councillor interested in being on this advisory group? Okay, and also indicate that Councillor Greer has indicated an interest in chairing. Can I just see if there's anyone else who is interested in chairing? Okay, so they are the three. That's the three names that have been put forward in order for this particular advisory group. So the proposal in front of you then is the community names which have been presented, plus the three councillors with Councillor Greer serving as chair. So, Councillor Greer, do you want to say anything in conclusion?
No, thanks.
Okay, I'm going to put the proposal then. All those in favour? Okay, that's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to 12.1, which requires an absolute majority. And I'm going to point out the following four items all require an absolute majority. So this is the annual review of council delegations. Do I have a mover for that? Moved by Councillor Wallace, seconded by Councillor Castle. Councillor Wallace, do you wish to say anything?
No, just supportive of this item.
Yep. Councillor Castle, do you wish to say anything?
Happy to support this this report and think these delegation changes are quite reasonable.
Are there any other comments that any councillor wishes to make? I'll put the proposal then. All those in favour? Okay, that's carried, and that is by consensus and also an absolute majority. The next item is 12.2, adoption of Corporate Business Plan 26-27 to 29-30 and the 4-year Capital Works Program 26-27 to 29-30. Do we have a mover for this? Moved by Councillor Poulios, seconded by Councillor Warner. Councillor Poulios, do you wish to say anything?
No, nothing to say.
Councillor Warner? Does anyone else wish to say anything? Councillor Castle?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm very happy to support this. This report outlines a vast amount of work that is ahead of us for the next 4 years. It goes hand in hand with the budget passed earlier in the meeting that this is the plan for the city. There is, I couldn't name off the top of my head how many highlights there are, but there is an enormous amount of work happening in the city, and I look forward to seeing it delivered.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Okay, I want to indicate how much I appreciate the work that's gone particularly into the 4-year Capital Works program. I'm not known for my patience, but I have to say that it's good to at least know that some of the projects that are important to me and I think important to other members of the community are going to eventually be realised, and that we have a plan for how that is going to occur. And I also do note that it is something that we are constantly revisiting to make sure it's fit for purpose and make sure that those projects which we have identified are still relevant and constantly being looked at. So it's important to make that point, I think, so that residents and ratepayers are aware that this is a plan, but it's also it is a living document, one that we are revisiting annually as well to make sure that it's appropriate. Does anyone else wish to speak on either of these items? Councillor Wallace, do you want to say anything in conclusion? Okay, I'll put the proposal. Or was it? Councillor Poulios, do you wish to say anything? Oh, was it? Sorry, Councillor Whedon, were you voting or were you wanting to speak?
I was voting. I've noticed there's a lag on the video.
There is a lag, sorry, no, and I was mixing up which councillor had actually moved it, so sorry about that. So, Councillor Poulios, do you wish to say? Okay, so all those in favour? Okay, carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, so the next one is 12.3, outcome of advertising and adoption of amended council members continuing CPD. I want to have a mover first, please. Moved by Councillor Poulios, seconded by Councillor Castle. I also draw people's attention to the purple or the grape coloured piece of paper in front of you, which has a proposed amendment. Councillor Poulios, do you wish to speak to this item?
Yeah, no, I'll leave it till the amendment if that's the case. Yep.
Okay, so Councillor Poulios is reserving his speaking until the amendment. So Councillor Castle.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm in support of this, the officer recommendation as it stands. I think that it is an important investment for council to ensure that council members have the opportunity to develop skills that are relevant to their role and help them to perform and understand the information that's presented to us, which is complex. And so I think obviously some parts of the professional development that's undertaken by council members is mandatory, but I am in support of looking for opportunities for other ways for council to upskill.
Does anyone else wish to speak on this item? Councillor Poulios, you have got an amendment in front of us. I just want to confirm, are you seeking to move that amendment?
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, there is an amendment in front of you. Do we have a seconder for that amendment? Seconded, Councillor Warner. Councillor Poulios.
Yeah, I guess coming into council, like it's good all the training we get, and it's really beneficial, the WALGA training that the new councillors had to perform. The one thing I noticed on this is it's a really good course and a great opportunity, but from sort of looking at it from the other lens, from the ratepayers, is it good that we're going to do a course that we get a lifelong sort of benefit from as individuals without contributing something to? So that's why I've proposed a small 10% co-contribution to the course, just to sort of have some skin in the game and sort of appreciate the opportunity that on these high level courses that we get. So yeah, just putting it out there, and happy to hear what everyone else thinks about it, whether they want to do that or not, or keep the status quo. So yeah.
Councillor Warner. I wish, so Councillor Castle?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't support this amendment. The reason being that, look, am only aware of one example of high cost training that council members have undertaken, so I can't say if this applies to other options, but certainly in relation to the company directors course run by the AICD, the membership fee, that the status quo requires the council member to pay the membership fee, which has the benefit of reducing the cost of the course. It also serves as a co-contribution, and as it stands is already a 10% contribution or thereabouts to the cost of the course. So the way I read this amendment, it would be requiring council members to pay 10% or thereabouts for membership, and then a further 10% of the course cost in order to participate. For some council members that may be prohibitive. Having completed that course, I have found it to be probably the single most useful training that I've completed as a council member. Certainly far better and far more useful than WALGA training. Sorry, I said that out loud. It covers all of the roles, the facets of our role here: financial literacy, governance, risk, the legal ramifications. It is seen and held up as the leading training for board members. There's certainly even some suggestions that it should be mandatory for board members. So I found that to be an incredibly useful training course. That is an example of where had an extra contribution been required, might not have been something that I could access. As to when a council member receives a personal or professional benefit from training, I don't really think that's an issue that needs to be worried about. I think every week when we sit around this table and debate and interact and perhaps learn about new skills and new areas that we're deciding on, we are developing ourselves professionally. Everything we do in this job is part of our professional development. If that also has a benefit of leading to other opportunities or other skills that you apply in the rest of your life, then what a bonus. But I don't think that that's a reason not to consider this sort of training or to require a further contribution.
Councillor Wolf?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Poulios, for bringing this forward. I'm also not supportive of the amendment. I concur with Councillor Castle's comments regarding the AICD course and the course cost and the membership fees. We certainly don't want to be in a position for that course in particular where elected members are double paying in a sense to be able to undertake that training, particularly given how direct the correlation is between what we do in the chamber and the content of that course. And in terms of other training that we've done as well, this is a poor example because it was a free course, but the Urban 95 training course that a few of us undertook as well, between the AICD and that one, we can really see in the chamber the effect of that training and how it lifts up our governance and our policy ideas that we bring forward here as well, so that there is clear benefit. I'd also not like to see a cost that might be prohibitive in terms of something that discourages people from running for council. Election costs are already quite high, and we want to ensure that we've got a diverse and representative set of elected members here, and we don't want to turn people away if they think that it's something that they won't be able to afford. The last reason that I'm not supportive is because although there would be some sort of personal benefit that you carry with you for the rest of your professional career, as with any training, this is a workplace, and in any workplace that's not really the standard that you expect from employees undertaking professional development.
I also wish to speak. I also don't support this particular amendment, although I am sympathetic of the sentiment that we want to ensure that professional development is being taken seriously and that people are, invested in it. I think there's ways to ensure that occurs without expecting a co-contribution, although if you're talking specifically about the AICD training, as Councillor Castle has indicated, for councillors who are going to be undertaking that training through the City of Vincent, they are required to already contribute in terms of membership. I've done the AICD training. I didn't do it through the City of Vincent, but I have completed it and understand that that it is very valuable for a lot of people. But in terms of the professional development I've undertaken while I've been Mayor, I reflect on the fact that I've done all of the compulsory training that I am required by law to do, and I don't have a choice as to whether I do it, regardless of the value or not. And also I have undergone some training around planning matters and advanced planning matters, which I actually found quite useful. They weren't hugely expensive, but I think it would have been problematic to expect me to have co-contributed to that, considering that the only reason I'm doing training around planning and advanced planning is because of this particular role. I'm also going to reflect that as Mayor, I'm paid to do 24 hours a week as Mayor, and I work 60 hours a week, and I don't have another job, so this is all I get. This is all I do, so I don't actually have a lot of disposable income, and so if I'm actually then having to put my own money again in, I think that's problematic. I also want to flag that currently under the policy, attending ALGA comes under professional development. I'll be going to ALGA next week. It's in Canberra. It's freezing cold. I'll be away from my dog and my family, but as we've talked about previously, I do that because it's important, because it's actually a voting forum where the City of Vincent votes around what the national priorities are for the local government sector at the national level. So it's quite important that we have a presence there. I don't think it would have been reasonable to expect me to be contributing towards attending, considering that I'm going to do my job and where the City of Vincent is expected to be there to vote. So it's not exactly going to Broome in June. So I just think that if we're talking about a co-contribution, if the concern is about one particular course, we've already got some parameters around that in terms of limiting the number of people that can do it per year. We have also given priority to people who are on 4-year terms as opposed to 2-year terms. So we already have got some parameters around how we are prioritising how that particular training is being undertaken. So I don't support that, though I do appreciate where the sentiment is coming from. I think that it's understandable. Does anyone else wish to speak on this amendment? Councillor Poulios, do you wish to say anything in conclusion?
Nothing further to add.
Okay, I'll put the amendment. All those in favour? Against? Okay, so noting that noting that against is Councillor Whedon, Councillor Wolfe, Councillor Castle, Councillor Greer, Councillor Wallace, Councillor Warner, and myself. Okay, so that has lapsed. Now we're back to the substantive. Does anyone wish to speak on the substantive? Councillor Poulios, do you wish to say anything in conclusion? Okay, I'll put the substantive motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so now we move to, where is it? There we go. 12.4, formal establishment of the Audit Risk and Improvement Committee and appointment of the Deputy and the Presiding Member. Okay, do I have a mover for this? Moved by Councillor Greer, seconded by Councillor Whedon. Councillor Greer?
I have nothing to say on this one.
Councillor Whedon?
Nothing extra.
Okay, just noting that this is a reflection of the changes that have occurred under the Act. So that's why we're doing this, and I want to thank those people on the Audit Committee who have been prepared to put their hand up to be part of it. Does anyone else wish to say anything in conclusion? Councillor Greer? Okay, all those in favour? Okay, carried unanimously and absolute majority done. Okay, so now I'll move on to 13.1. Which is 2 motions of notice. So there is one motion of notice which is from me, which is 13.1, which is in relation to the use of the Perth Parking Levy funds in Vincent. I'm moving that. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Greer. Okay, so thank you very much. I have got this nom in front of you, and we've articulated what the reasons are as well. I am frustrated that the City of Vincent has been paying the Perth Parking Levy for years, and we have seen absolutely nothing in return. At the same time, we've seen 2 other councils that don't contribute to the Perth Parking Levy at all, namely the town of Cambridge and also the town of Victoria Park, who have been the beneficiaries of this money for other projects. So I think it's actually really important that the City of Vincent make it clear that we expect to see some value for our contribution to the Perth Parking Levy. And I note also the Transport Advisory Group has also started looking at this as well and has some clear ideas. So I have proposed that there be some specific proposals that we put forward in terms of how the Perth Parking Levy could be better utilised within the City of Vincent. We know for a long time that crossing over East Parade from the East Perth train station is really dangerous. Ultimately, we will have to see a bridge that crosses over East Parade that goes from the East Perth train station into the East Perth precinct for residents, but also as we see the East Perth Power Station continue to hold events, and as we see more people going over that part of the world to go to the Optus Stadium and the like for events. But at the very least, we should be looking in the short term at the installation of an interim signalised pedestrian crossing, and it's important we start looking at some detailed planning for what a bridge could look like in the future. When it had originally been proposed that the East Perth Power Station was going to be developed, I know that there had been thoughts that a bridge would go over from Summers Street, but my understanding is that there were no clear plans developed as to how that would actually work and what that would look like. I think it's really important we look at getting some clear plans in place. So even if there is not funding being made available right now for a future bridge, we should know what it is that we're asking for and what needs to happen and where that's best placed as moving forward. Perhaps that's something that can subsequently be picked up by any developers that end up developing the East Perth Power Station. Let's do the planning for that now. Let's get some sort of signalised crossing over that space now. So that's the first thing that I'm asking for. The second thing, of course, is the CAT. We need to see an extension of the existing blue CAT, including that is included within the existing boundary of Vincent in order to be able to connect up the Leederville Town Centre. This just makes sense. This is the area where people are already paying towards the Perth parking levy. So we should be looking to open that up. It's going to be particularly important with the Sydney Charles Quarter development that's occurring, and that way we can be opening up that area. So that strikes me as something which should be happening sooner rather than later. But the big thing that I think we need to be working towards is the establishment of the east-west bus route, to make sure that we're connecting up the Leederville Town Centre and going all the way down to the North Claysbrook precinct. We are the City of Vincent. Vincent Street is a key corridor for us as east-west, and it is frustrating how difficult it is to get from one side to the other. Now, we also need to improve the east-west for people who are on scooters, just as an aside, but that's a different issue for now. But at the very least, if we had a CAT that was able to open up those corridors, that would make it easier for people to get to Beatty Park, which would actually take pressure off the traffic and the parking around there, to go to and from between Beaufort Street and Leederville, and as we are getting North Claysbrook developed, having that incorporated as well. So that strikes me as something that we should be lobbying for. It takes traffic off inner city Vincent, and it opens up for residents an easier way to be able to get through these, across this key corridor to important areas. So I note that the advice that has been received is that we can look at the Perth parking levy being used without extending out the zone from where the Perth parking levy is actually harnessed. We can extend out the use of exactly things like CAT beyond that, and the precedent has been set, and we are able to do that. And in fact, we've received some advice that could even be used for as far as Byford, I think, was the example which was given, as long as it's connected up with the train line. I'm happy to be corrected on that, but that's the sort of flexibility that can be in there. So I do urge councillors to consider supporting this, and I think it's beyond time to do this. Councillor Greer.
Thank you, Mayor Zaman, and thank you so much for putting this forward. I really support writing to the Minister. It was concerning to read that as the city we've been contributing towards the Perth parking levy but getting very little benefit. I just want to touch on the East Parade aspect. I think the community really want to see a safe crossing, as you've stated. We've seen the residents already put forward petitions to the WA State Parliament and door knocking in those areas. The community have really come together to highlight just how dangerous it is to cross the road. I've heard stories of people looking to change primary schools because they struggle to walk their children to school over to Highgate Primary from that area. So we need to make it safe for pedestrians and commuters, and the crossing will do that. I am the biggest fan of the east to west bus route. We do really need to get that going. For someone who lives on the Leederville side of things, so often you have to get in your car to go to Woolies or to go to Coles. And I think as a city, we should be looking at trying to get people to stop doing those small car trips. Every time I think about it and go, nah, better just get in the car. Rather than cycle or other things. So I think especially for those that live on the eastern or western sides, this would be a really good opportunity for us to get people out of their cars.
Does anyone else wish to speak on this? Okay, I'm going to put it then. All those in favour? Yeah, let's get a CAT bus. So then I'll move on to the next one, which is the Mindarie Regional Council works. I'm moving this proposal. I've got Councillor Castle seconding. Thank you. Okay, so this is obviously seeking council support to undertake for the CEO and myself to approach the Minister for Environment and also the relevant department to see if we can ensure that the necessary approvals are given in order to enable the environmentally responsible and mandated closure of the landfill out at Tamala Park. There have been hold-ups in terms of the approval of the final piggyback lining, which would actually enable the correct profile, the one that has been worked towards for years and which we have been told is required environmentally in order to be able to effectively and safely close the Tamala Park landfill by 2029-2030, which is when it was always projected to be closed. Failure to do that runs the risk that we are going to end up with liability for managing a landfill which has not been closed safely, which means that there will be ongoing adverse environmental impacts. It will also have adverse impacts for the nearby residents in terms of ongoing risks around odour and amenity. So that's a huge risk for us as well. The big thing for the City of Vincent is that we know already that we are going to be paying probably for the next 50 years or so for the ongoing management of that site even when it's closed, partly because it was not lined properly in the first place, but also because landfills require ongoing management. I'm very concerned to ensure that that annual cost is not unnecessarily increased simply because we were never given the opportunity to close it appropriately in the environmentally mandated way. So that's the purpose of this coming forward to councillors tonight. We really do need to get some positive movements on this. We need to get the politics out of it, and we need to get it focused on the science and making sure that it is responsibly closed. Councillor Castle.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for bringing this forward. It's certainly concerning to consider that there might be a proposal to divert from the well-established and long-agreed plan for the closure of Tamala Park, particularly if that diversion from the plan doesn't result in the best environmental outcome and the best outcome for the local residents and for the Mindarie Regional Council and therefore the City of Vincent. I fully support the Mayor and the CEO having these conversations to ensure that we stay the course and that we can actually deal with this particular facility in a responsible way. As the Mayor has said, we are going to be maintaining this for decades to come, and it is really important that we're not just looking for a quick and dirty fix, that we're actually making sure that it's done properly. So thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak on this item? Okay, I'm going to put that then. All those in favour? Okay, that's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, so there being no further business to conduct, I thank everyone who's in attendance and on the live stream, and